welcome you to the Duke City of Albuquerque, where tonight Air Force and New Mexico get the Mountain West Conference season underway from University Stadium. The Lobos take the field under first-year head coach Mike Locksley, looking for their first win of the Mike Locksley era here at University Stadium. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the Air Force Falcons come to town looking to stay perfect in 10 straight Mountain West Conference openers. And welcome, everybody. Tom Hart alongside my partner, Aaron Taylor. Once again, the Mike Locksley era has begun in New Mexico. And, Aaron, he brought with him this potent spread offense. And while it can be great, we haven't seen it just yet.
No, it's been struggling a little bit, but Mike Locksley's no stranger to implementing the spread offense. He was, of course, at Florida when they made the transition to the spread with Chris Leak. And then as of late, at the University of Illinois with Juice Williams. Does a great job, so it's not a matter if New Mexico is going to explode, whether or not this offense is going to be potent. It's going to be a matter of when.
The common denominator in his two previous stops were two great quarterbacks. Can Donovan Portery be that great quarterback here?
He certainly absolutely can. 2 years ago, this young man threw for 3,000 yards and 15 touchdowns, so he's full of potential. Change is not always easy, but when the light goes on, Portery can be special. And we're talking New Mexico football, so you have to be able to talk the running game. 7 straight years with 1,000-yard rusher. This promising young freshman of Damon Dennis is going to be the next. This young man, again, as a freshman, it's a struggle to get things going, but he's somebody that can figure it out. He can be good as well.
Well, in the Air Force camp, consistency is the key. Head coach Troy Calhoun returns with his entire staff intact, and after back-to-back bowl seasons, they look to continue that, and they look to do it with a young but effective backfield.
Yeah, Tim Jefferson as a quarterback was tremendous last year. In fact, he was the first Air Force quarterback to take Air Force to a bowl game. He's got a year under his belt. He's stronger, he's bigger, he's faster, and a much better understanding of the offense. This young man could be special. And complimenting him as sophomore running back Asher Clark. He's an explosive runner with the strength and toughness to run inside. He's got enough speed and burst to be able to get to the edge, and he leads the Mountain West with 9 yards per carry for all rushers. And the Air Force, you take a look at these numbers. They've done it as a group. They lead the country with 367.5 yards per game. 16 different players with at least a carry. 10 of those players averaging more than 4 yards per rush. What that means is Air Force, again, doing it on the ground as a team.
Head coach Troy Calhoun was approached by both Tennessee and Clemson in the offseason. He stayed in Colorado Springs, and he is the only Academy graduate to both play and coach the Falcons. He's looking for a 3rd straight bowl berth this season. Air Force comes in off of a road loss and a tough one at Minnesota. And what has become a premier conference in college football, the Mountain West Conference, now gets underway. This is the first conference tilt of the season, and in fact, today this will be the only conference game. Already a tough loss on the road for Utah at Oregon. Eric Soderberg handles the kickoff duties for Air Force. The sophomore from Eden Prairie, Minnesota, had a home game last week. And Roland Bruno, senior from Beaumont, Texas, deep to return for the Lobos. Bruno back with Frankie Solomon. And the Mountain West Conference season is underway from University Stadium. Bruno fumbles the kick at the 11. And he recovers enough to take it out to the 16 and stay on his feet nearly to the 20. It's a 8-yard return to the 19. Now let's take a look at tonight's quarterback profile, brought to you by 5 Hour Energy.
Well, heading the Lobos is senior quarterback Donovan Portery. This young man is mobile. He has a good pocket presence. He's also very arm accurate. He makes the throws that he needs to, and he's a play-action passer, something that he worked very well on his feet in the offseason. Look for them to be able to do that and hit some short routes tonight.
Donovan told us this week that he always considered himself more of a drop-back pocket passer. But in this spread offense, they're going to try and move the pocket and get him moving just a little bit. Ty Kirk goes in motion. Play action, first play, pressure on, and they dump it out to the fullback, Josh Fussell, and Fussell picks up a gain of 4. Patrick Hennessy on the stop. Let's meet the difference makers on the New Mexico offense.
Again, we're talking about Donovan Portery. When firing on all cylinders, Portery is an exciting playmaker. And then at running back, the true freshman, Damon Dennis. New Mexico has to establish a run game, and Dennis gives them the best shot. And finally, the center, Eric Cook.
Now they will keep it on the ground to Dennis. Big hole to run through. Runs right up the back of one of his blockers, and that will set up a 3rd and short. Here are the difference makers now on defense for Air Force.
We talk about linebacker Ken LaMendola, the leading tackler from a year ago, heads a very active group of linebackers. Complimenting him is cornerback Reggie Rimbert. Back from a 1-game suspension, this junior cornerback has great instincts and a linebacker's mentality. And finally, safety Chris Thomas. He's been a little banged up, but he's a great run stopper and is always around the football.
Chris Thomas has a nose for the football. Let's see when he gets involved thus far. It's 3rd and short for New Mexico. They keep it on the ground, and that will likely be good on the dive from the freshman out of Atlanta's Carver High School, Damon Dennis. So the Lobos pick up their first down, Aaron.
This is something that is very important to them as an offense. It's all about rhythm, so it's important for New Mexico to come out and establish some rhythm. They did that, open the game with some play action, and then picking up a huge 3rd down when they needed it. This is the way you want to start a ball game.
New Mexico has struggled in basically all areas of their offense, but only 38 yards a game on the ground. Portery pressured once again, and he chucks this one over the Air Force bench. Patrick Hennessy already has 1 stop today, and the junior from aptly named Strongville, Ohio, was able to get in Portery's face.
This is this very similar to the same play that they ran. It's a play action pass, but they bring some pressure off the outside. Patrick Hennessy doing a great job. Air Force seemed to have an answer for that.
This New Mexico offensive line, Aaron, is making an adjustment as well. Everybody's making an adjustment to this spread offense, but for the big guys up front, it's also a big change.
There's no question it's a big change. There's new terminology, there's new protection packages and new schemes, and watching them on film, they're cozy with their splits a little bit, and that often happens when you have guys that want to be a little bit shoulder to shoulder and not get out there on space. As they get more familiar, I would expect those splits to open up, which will actually help their running game.
See what the issue is here with our officials tonight from University Stadium. By the way, there are no more Mountain West Conference specific officials. They work with the WAC and the Big 12. Suspended due to academics, he could practice with the team but could not represent the academy, which means he was out of the first 2 games for the Falcons. Here's a little option from Portery. No one to pitch it to. Little read play, and Portery on 2nd and 10 with a gain of 5. Rick Ricketts with the stop for Air Force.
Well, there's no question. We talked about Donovan Portery's ability to be able to run. This is something that we haven't seen a whole lot of him. They had some success last week in their game against Tulsa, but unfortunately it was a fumble. But this, he makes a good read, does a good decision, planting his foot and getting upfield. So important for the option.
So not only spread, but a no-huddle attack. You see the New Mexico starters across the top of your screen. Here's Dennis, room to the outside, and number 1 makes a man miss all the way to midfield, and a nice scramble of 15 yards for Damon Dennis.
That's what Damon Dennis brings. That's why they're so excited about him. Air Force slants, they crush down the linebacker, can't scrape. Dennis just uses his speed and great open field running ability to make the defender miss. Does a good job getting upfield.
Relatively quick snap here. They swing it outside to Darryl Jones, and Jones able to surge forward for a slight gain. Patrick Hennessy with his 3rd tackle of the day. He's been all over the place now for Air Force.
This is so important for this offense, Tom. One of the things they talked about again was coming out and getting into a rhythm. Defensively, Air Force was concerned about their ability to match up on the outside against great skill players that they think the Lobos have. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this game goes, where they keep it on the ground, mix it, or go through the air attack.
You see the Air Force starters at the top of your screen on the defensive side of the ball for the Falcons. Portery looks back, comes back, trying to set up the screen. A nice setup, and that's good for a 1st down. Ty Kirk brought down by Justin Moore. A gain of 7 that time, and another 1st down for New Mexico as they continue to march. You know, the big question with this New Mexico offense is how long will it take these guys to execute the spread on game day?
Well, we talked about it's a win, it's a matter of when, not if they're doing it. And right now in this first drive, they look like they're doing a great job, although Dennis gets stuffed right here on the inside run. It's so important important for an offense to be able to fall into a rhythm. They script their first 15 plays, and thus far, Daryl Dickey, the offensive coordinator, is doing a good job of dialing this up. He's learning a lot about what looks defensively Air Force is going to bring them so that they can come back to it later in the game and make some adjustments. But thus far, the Lobos have clicked better offensively than they have all year.
Dennis passed his season high already. After that last carry, he's now up to 28 yards on the afternoon. And they expect a lot out of Damon Dennis, just a freshman. Going with the slant. Incomplete. Victor James, the intended receiver, the former quarterback for New Mexico.
Great job by picking up the blitz. They brought some heat. That's just an immediately check read. It's a hot read. You got to be able to hit it right now. Good read by Donovan Porter. Unfortunately, the receiver could not come up with it.
Third down for New Mexico on the season, 5 of 29. And they really struggled last week on third downs against Tulsa in a home loss. They've converted both so far today on this opening drive for the Lobos. Pressure on Portery, tries to step up, can't evade the pressure, and he's brought down in the backfield by Elliott Battle, the junior from Los Angeles.
One of the things that Air Force likes to do defensively is bring the heat. They bring an overload from that side. Elliott Battle coming out of the corner, creating some pressure, forcing Donovan to pull the ball down and scramble a little bit. Good play call defensively by the Air Force Falcons to get a big third down stop.
This is James Aho attempting what would be a career-long 53-yard attempt. He hit a pair of 48-yarders last week. He's got the leg, but that one blocked at the line of scrimmage as he tried to drive it low. And that's where the drive will come to an end for New Mexico. Picked up by Anthony Wright. Live ball, and Wright's got a blocker, and finally he's taken down to 35, and a flag on the play.
Oftentimes, Tom, when you have a long kick that's going to have a low trajectory, defensive player for Air Force doing a good job of jumping up and getting his hand up there.
Ben Garland, all 6'5" of them with the stretch.
The senior putting that big paw, getting that right hand up there. A little bit of a low trajectory. It's again expected on a low kick, but a huge stop and something to be able to spark this Air Force defensive team that comes up with a big stop. And unfortunately for the Lobos, they didn't get any points out of one of their best drives they've had.
Flag at the end of that return on the block kick. It was a block in the back, and it came right there as Reggie Rembert gets flagged on the block kick return for Anthony Wright. Air Force will be on offense when we return to Albuquerque. The peaks of the Sandia Mountains reach more than 10,000 feet here in the land of enchantment. And this New Mexico offense trying to get on task. Couldn't on their opening drive after a blocked field goal. So here's Air Force's vaunted option offense, and they keep it on the ground, which is the key, and Asher Clark goes forward to the 31-yard line. Let's take a look at tonight's quarterback profile, brought to you by 5 Hour Energy.
Tim Jefferson's only a sophomore, but he plays confident for his age. He's a as a freshman, he did a great job of protecting the football, and he's a cadet on the football team at the academy, so we know that this young man is very poised and tough.
2nd and 6. His first 5 starts last season, Tim Jefferson led the academy to 5 wins. The option pitch to Clark. He's got room on the edge, and he's forward all the way to the 46-yard line. Let's meet the difference makers on the Air Force side of the ball offensively.
Well, when you're talking Air Force offense, it starts with quarterback Tim Jefferson. The sophomore from Atlanta, Georgia, is quickly becoming more than just a game manager. And at running back, Asher Clark, another Georgia native, has the speed and toughness to burn. And finally, wide receiver Kevin Fogler. When he catches it, big things happen.
Fogler split to the near side of your screen, and here's Jared Tu, the fullback, with his first carry. He takes it to the logo at midfield. Defensively for New Mexico, here are their difference makers.
Look for defensive tackle Kendall Briscoe. He's the emotional leader of the defense and has a nice mix of wiggle and strength. And linebacker Clint McPeak, the former walk-on, comes from a military background, and he's got the toughness to show it. And finally, cornerback Anthony Hooks. Cornerbacks must tackle and contain well. Hooks must be a factor tonight.
That's the only level of the New Mexico defense that doesn't feature a solid returning starter. The Air Force option once again snuffed out that time by Trey Hardaway. Xavier Stevens with his first carry of the day.
When you're defending the option, Tom, your linebackers have to have a big game. The defensive tackles and ends, of course, have to first stop the fullback dive. Then you want to take care of the quarterback, and finally the pitch man. The linebackers are involved in that. For them to have a big play or big game tonight and be a factor, they have to stay off of the ground and keep their head on the swivel. So far, they're doing a great job.
Now out of the shotgun goes Tim Jefferson with the read. He wants to throw, and he lets it go to Fogler. And Fogler makes a few men miss. Still on his feet to the 35-yard line. On 3rd and 5, Air Force airs it out. Peter Gardner got downfield to make the stop after a gain of 14.
Well, this is something that Air Force is doing now. When you have a quarterback that understands the system with a year under his belt, they can throw the football a little bit more. And when you have a guy like Fogler out on the outside, it sure makes your job easy when he makes people miss.
Air Force uses a timeout here with 7:39 to go in the first quarter. We'll take it along with them. Falcons and Lobos scoreless, but Air Force on their opening drive threatening, moving into Lobo territory. We want to know who you think will be the most successful first-year head coach in the Mountain West Conference this season. Your choices are, of course, Mike Locksley from New Mexico. He's C1. Text C2 for Dave Christensen at Wyoming, or C3 for San Diego State's Brady Hoke. We'll follow that along all throughout the game, and you can bet we'll follow it throughout the season. Chaz Demeroth is a tight end in motion as this opening drive continues for Air Force. Asher Clark cuts it upfield and makes his way to the 30. A gain of 5 on first down for the Falcons. Kendall Briscoe with the stop.
This is what Air Force does so well. They just like to dink and dunk. We talked about the linebackers having to stay off the ground. Keep your eye on number 55. Trey Hardaway does a good job. Can't really see it from that angle of not getting cut and staying on his feet. That's why you don't ever stop the option. You merely contain it, and that's how you do it.
Everything's brand new for New Mexico as Clark has room again down the sideline. Thrown down by Carmen Messina, who's coming off of a 14-tackle performance against Tulsa, and there's a flag on the play. So far from us, Aaron, and for good reason, the spread has gotten a lot of attention in this renovation of the New Mexico program under Mike Locksley. Here's the call.
Personal foul, grabbing the face mask, number 58 defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
One of the things that Air Force does so well is gets to the edge and captures the edge. They cave down, they block down with their wide receivers on both the safeties, the corners, and the linebackers. They have to have good play from their linebackers tonight, running sideline to sideline. But make no mistake about it, stopping the option is about stopping the fullback dive first, then working to the quarterback, and finally to the pitchman.
And of all the changes, New Mexico is trying to do it with a brand new offense. For years under defense, for years under Rocky Long, it was a 3-3-5. Now they go out of a 4-3. Xavier Stevens with his second carry is inside the 10. What kind of adjustments does that take for New Mexico and these players trying to make the change from a 3-3-5 to the 4-3?
Well, it's quite a bit of difference. In the 3-3-5, they attacked. They would go just pick a gap. It was much more complicated. The players now, aside from having an extra defensive lineman, that's what the 4 stands for, they have to play 2 gaps. Instead of just diving into 1 gap, they have to be able to extend their arms, stay on their feet, and protect 2 gaps at once.
So far, they've had a tough time in the red zone stopping opponents. And now they go with the end around, John Warzeka. And Warzeka's got room. He's to the pylon and in. No signal yet. Touchdown, Air Force. First touchdown of the season for Jonathan Warzeka.
Just doing a good job on the end around where Zika has the speed. Great blocking job out in front. Jared, too, doing a good job getting out in front of him. Then he just uses speed and burst and great athleticism to be able to dive across the end zone, have the ball cross the plane for the first touchdown of the night.
So the opening drive for Air Force results in 7 on the board as Eric Soderberg pounds through the extra point. And this is what we've gotten used to from this Air Force offense. They are a triple option offense, but but they do it out of
Mike,
a bunch of different looks.
They do, and they have a lot of window dressing. We talked about keeping guys off the ground. Let's see if New Mexico is able to do that. There's a hat and a hat. They're very disciplined. Everybody stays on their feet and on their blocks and maintains them. That's one of the key differences that I've seen between these two teams on film is the wide receivers of Air Force are excellent blockers downfield, maintaining their blocks, and they're as much a part of this run game as the offensive line is.
You know, Doug Mallory is the new defensive coordinator for New Mexico. He knows how to stop the option. He was the defensive coordinator, co-coordinator last year at LSU, and they pummeled Paul Johnson and Georgia Tech in their bowl game. He said one big difference, however, is that Georgia Tech keeps it really simple. They run out of maybe 5 formations. Air Force will run the same play and this system out of 25 or 26 different formations.
And it was also a bowl game, so they had 3 weeks to be able to prepare. That makes a difference as well. We all saw what happened when Miami had 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia Tech on Thursday night. It's much different. The option is so hard to defend because it breaks all of your rules. You have to do something different and prepare for the one game, which means you have nothing to build off of, so it challenges defenses. But again, you're absolutely right. One of the things that Air Force does so well is disguises what they do.
Nine-play scoring drive for Air Force. Frankie Solomon came up to get that kick, and he takes it to the 30 as he cut off Roland Bruno to haul that one in. Let's take a look at the icy hot injury report, and we focus on Air Force and cornerback P.J. Adeji-Paul, who suffered a knee injury, and he's out for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And It couldn't have been better timing to get Reggie Rembert back from suspension to start at one cornerback spot for head coach Troy Calhoun.
Yeah, that's one of the things that always seems to nick the nag at Air Force's injuries. A key to them having a successful season and why they've done so well under Troy Calhoun is they've simply been lucky and haven't been hurt with the injury bug too much.
1st and 10 now for Donovan Portery in the New Mexico offense for the second time. And a spin move by the youngster Dennis. He takes it out for a gain of 9 on 1st down. Anthony Wright with the stop for Air Force.
This was just a simple pull trap play where the play is going to design to go here, but you'll see Portery uses his eyes and cuts back. Nothing there. Hit it backside, go upside. That's tremendous vision for a young player using the athleticism with the spin move. If he can continue to do that as well as improve his pass blocking, this young man could be a very good running back.
So far, career high for Dennis in just his 3rd game here for the Lobos. Here he is again. Split the first 2 defenders and lost the football. Scooped up by Air Force, and Phil O'Feely has it. And the turnover problems continue to plague New Mexico. It looked like the youngster Dennis had a big burst up the middle.
That's what he does so well, is he uses that speed and athleticism, but there's always good and bad with the freshman running back. Does a great job hitting up inside, but you got to be able to protect the football. Anthony Wright doing a great job coming in there with his right hand right there and stripping the football. As a young running back, he will learn to be able to cover the hands up in traffic with both hands. This young man just got better, believe it or not, as a football player for making that mistake. But this is something that, again, the Lobos have to eradicate. Every single time it seems that they get something going offensively, they shoot themselves in the foot.
Air Force is now +5 in the turnover column so far this season. They were magnificent at takeaways and taking care of the football last season. 6 yards on 1st down for the Falcons. Bubba Forrest with the stop.
Here, Tom, you take a look at the turnover comparison. Air Force does such a great job. They're +5, and New Mexico is -6. You're going to win a lot of games if you protect the football.
The fullback 2 rumbles forward to midfield for an Air Force 1st down. Senior Clint McPeak with the stop after a gain of 6. Well, we expected to see a lot of different guys have an impact for Air Force, and thus far they're doing a great job, Aaron, sharing the football.
No question, that's what we do. We talked about the 16 different ball carriers. They spread it around. That's how they stay fresh, and in fact, they practice. Their 2s get more reps during the week than the 1s do so that they can come in here and substitute.
Warzeka in motion. They fake the pitch to him. Jefferson wants to go that way. He's got him wide open for another Air Force 1st down. Hardaway in coverage with the stop. A well-designed play.
Great job of using play action again. They're hit them 2 runs right in a row, got the first down, and then come back right away with the play action pass. Doing a good job by Warzika, just sitting down in the zone. The safety's a little bit late getting over there, can't quite get there, comes down with the football. That's exactly what you do. Tim Jefferson, this Lobo defensive line, that's the thing. The best way that you can help out your defensive backfield is by getting a good pass rush. New Mexico has the ability to be able to get there up front.
So one former Air Force quarterback looks on as his signal caller is now down. We'll be back to Albuquerque right after this. Look at how he got injured.
One of the toughest things to do as an offensive lineman is go into play action, keep your eye right here. You have to fire off and maintain your block, but if the quarterback has to pull the ball down, it's hard to keep it there. Latchinson and Gardner just keep hustling, are able to get to Tim Jefferson, who took a little longer to throw the football than he wanted, and that's why he got hit on that play.
Tried to get up, went back down to the turf. He's now being tended to on the Air Force sideline. And Connor Dietz, a sophomore from Columbus, Ohio, takes over under center for the Falcons. 2 with the carry. It was a romp week 1 for Air Force, 72-0 over Nicholls State. And while you might look at that score, Aaron, and say, well, what could you learn? One thing very important is they were able to get playing time and snaps for guys like Connor Dietz, the first game of the season.
There's no question, and again, we talked about them practicing the number 2s a little bit more than the 1. They said during the week of practice, the number 1 team will get 2 reps, the number 2 team will take 4 reps, and sometimes at the skill positions, they take up to 3 rotations.
Warzika is horse-collared out of bounds, and that will be another personal foul penalty against this New Mexico defense.
It's going to be the sophomore defensive end, Jonathan Rainey. Referees really trying to make an inference. Really trying to make a point of keeping players safe. You can't bring a guy, especially wrapping your arm around his neck. You just have to be careful as a football player. You got to applaud the hustle, but you also have to be safe at the same time.
So it's the second time on Air Force's second drive, second time in the first 2 drives that a personal foul penalty has now moved the Falcons deep into New Mexico territory. They scored on an end around by Warzika on their first drive.
This is certainly an offense that doesn't need any additional help.
Right side of the line may have jumped for the Falcons. Looked like Chris Campbell flinched.
I like what I'm seeing so far out of the defensive front for New Mexico. False start on the offense, a very rare penalty. One of the marks of Troy Calhoun and the Air Force Academy in general is how disciplined they are. They're a team, conversely, that doesn't shoot themselves in the foot. They play very disciplined football, and by their nature, it's what they're programmed to do. As cadets, they have to be very disciplined, so it's a nice transfer onto the football field as players.
Second flag today against the Falcons. Asher Clark finds it going tough up the middle. Jamar Latchison is there, sophomore from New York City. So quarterback Tim Jefferson on the sideline for the time being for Air Force, and sophomore Connor Dietz out of Hilliard-Davidson High School in Columbus, where he led Hilliard-Davidson to a state championship his senior year, played in a big-time high classification program. So no nerves there for the Air Force coaching staff. 2 carries it, and that will set up a 3rd and 10. Hardaway with the stop once again. Connor Dietz was the benefactor of a year on the JV program last year at Air Force. Troy Calhoun told us this week, he showed up at the academy. He got banged up, broke his foot early. We never really got a chance to see what he could do, and he didn't get a chance to do much.
No, not with a broken foot, but now he's got his time in the spotlight to shine.
3rd and 10, and a quarterback draw. Here goes Dietz straight up the gut, and that will leave 4th and a long 1. And he's not afraid to get in there and lay a lick, is he?
No question. He's got fresh legs, baby. This is his first major role of the season, and a very important one. Great play call here. The defense spreads themselves out. They rush themselves up the field. Good job being able to tuck the football and run. They saw an opening in the middle of the defense and took what they gave them. For New Mexico to be successful tonight, they have to do what they did there, which was prevent the 3rd downs and be 3rd and long.
Eric Soderberg with a 24-yard attempt. And he puts it through to add to the Air Force advantage here in Albuquerque. This past week, Intercollegiate Athletics lost a friend and a leader when NCAA President Miles Brand passed away after a battle with cancer. All of us at the CBS College Sports Network are deeply saddened by the loss of this remarkable man. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Brand family.
Finding smart investment.
Able to finish strong. BYU has a tremendous offense, so I would expect them to respond. But Oregon, we all knew they had a potent offense. It finally kicked in, and special teams was the difference in that game. They won by a touchdown, and that was their first point on the board of that game.
Dennis and Bruno back to return from the 10-yard line. This is Bruno, and Bruno stands himself up at the 20, and that's where he will stop. And the Lobos will return to the field offensively. Well, from the SEC to NYC, Mr. College Football Tony Barnhart tackles all the issues of the gridiron. It's a jam-packed hour of opinion, news, and insight from Mr. College Football. Catch a Tony Barnhart Show presented by Bass Pro Shops Tuesday at 9 Eastern. Only on the CBS College Sports Network, Football First. Beautiful downtown Albuquerque, just outside of University Stadium. Playing host to Lobo games for its 50th season this year. Portery hands it off. 5 yards on first down. Ken Lamendola with the stop. And that's the first carry of the day for A.J. Butler. Well, through the 50 years of this stadium here just off of main campus here in the Duke City, and much has changed. Much has changed from day number 1 when the first football game for the New Mexico Lobos took place in the parking lot of the Ice Factory across town. That was before New Mexico was even a state. On 2nd and 5, a high pass to Darryl Jones. Minute 6 to go in the first quarter, and 3rd and 5 now.
Portery needing to settle down a little bit. The ball just floats on him a little bit. Good job of running a stop route. Just overthrows him a little bit. The receiver, the rule is a receiver. If you touch the football, you got to catch it. But certainly Portery's got to help him by getting that ball down.
Jones could have gone up and got it. He's got a vertical of 40.5 inches. Best among the wide receivers. 5 were wide that time, but a whistle and a flag and a false start against New Mexico. And that'll be the 3rd penalty of the day against the Lobos.
Bringing up 3rd down again. What the coaching staff wanted to do this week was to simplify everything. Put in 5 to 6 runs, 10 to 10 routes maybe. And they said, all we want you guys to do is go out and execute. So far, they're not doing a good job of finishing drives or getting something going offensively. But when you have turnovers and you shoot yourself in the foot with penalties, it certainly doesn't help your offense move down. The mark of a good team is being able to respond. Donovan Portery, as a senior, is certainly somebody that has that capability.
3rd and 10 for the Lobos. So they get it straightened out on the field. 3rd down coming for head coach Mike Loxley. Portery steps away from the pocket. Intercepted. Picked off by John Davis. He's got the sideline, and Davis on his feet and stuck at the goal line, but he sticks with it. Touchdown, Air Force. A 38-yard return for John Davis. And Aaron, he ran into a brick wall at the goal line. He just decided to go around it.
Yes, he did, but he finally got his way in. But this play started because keep your eye at left tackle. Byron Bailey gets beat up and under. Great swim move on the outside by Rick Ricketts to force Portery out of the pocket. He throws the football across his body. Not a very good thing because you lose velocity. And then John Davis just does a good job of breaking on the football because it gets there late. using his athleticism, the train and his buddies getting in front of him, and they punch it into the end zone. Another huge mistake by New Mexico and very opportunistic play by the Air Force defense.
Eric Soderberg with the extra point. And John Davis, on his first career interception, comes up with a pick six and a 38-yard return. Second interception of the season for Donovan Portery. He has yet to throw a touchdown pass. In fact, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass now in 6 games and nearly a quarter. Well, flashback to last season when the Lobos visited Colorado Springs. Rodney Ferguson put New Mexico on the board first with his 2-yard splash. Then after Lobo field goal made it 10-zip, Aaron Kirchhoff, playing the same position as John Davis, picked up this fumble and returned it 96 yards. It was a dash to romance as he went and found his girlfriend, the cheerleader at Air Force, and handed it off. Tim Jefferson then connected with Travis Decker to take the lead, and the Falcons would go on to a 23-10 victory. The safety position coming up huge. Kirchhoff had the run to romance. John Davis has, I don't know, we need a nickname for that 28-yard return when he ran into a wall.
Pick six, airbag.
Airbag, good enough. I don't understand it, but a lot of things I don't get. From the 8, it's Bruno. And Bruno takes it out to the 22-yard line.
Tom, this is again something that New Mexico has to be able to do. B.R. Holbrook looks like he's getting a play and maybe come in. They're trying to do something to maybe jumpstart this offense. Coaching staff has a lot of confidence in B.R. Holbrook. They like his ability to be able to make plays, and actually had to talk him into coming back. He wasn't very happy as a player, but they had to kind of get him to come back, and here he is. They're going to him as a young freshman from Stevenson Ranch, California, coming into this game trying to give the Lobos a spark offensively.
So Donovan Portery takes a seat after the pick six, and Holbrook, they think an awfully lot of, hands it off on first down and a gain of 3. A little change up here for the New Mexico staff this game, and I wonder if it may have an effect. T. Martin, you know him as the national championship quarterback at Tennessee. He's also first-year quarterback coach here for Mike Locksley. The first 2 weeks, T was down on the field. However, this week they moved T up to the booth. And one of the things that Mike Locksley really likes about T. Martin is his ability to relate to the quarterbacks, to be that friendly father figure, to put his arm around the guy and let him know that things are going to be all right as Holbrook takes it up the middle for a first down. Now all of a sudden, Aaron, I think you lose a little bit of that by having him up in the booth as opposed to down on the sideline where he can both comfort Portery and also get Holbrook prepared.
There's no question, and certainly you want him to be able to have a chance to interact with him, but he can talk to him on the phones. But make no mistake about it, B.R. Holbrook, this could be the biggest football game in his life, and they need a spark for this Lobos because they have a tremendous game and a tremendous team that they're playing in the Air Force Falcons.
And we start the second quarter with Air Force in front of New Mexico 17-0. And they've switched quarterbacks, and they've gone to redshirt freshman B.R. Holbrook. Out of the shotgun is Holbrook. And nothing doing on the ground, although they've been very efficient on the ground so far today. Let's take a look at the Bud Light Stat six-pack. Thus far, it is a season high of rush yards for New Mexico, but the 2 turnovers have led to the Air Force points.
There's no question. New Mexico's defense doing a great job of keeping Air Force's rush attack in check, and conversely, their run game is really doing a good job with the new quarterback in there. You want to put that pressure on the offensive line up front.
10 of the Falcons' points have come either directly off of or after a turnover. Holbrook completes his first attempt to Victor James. Andre Morris with the stop for Air Force. So let's see what B.R. Holbrook has to offer. Under his quarterback's coach, T. Martin, who is up in the booth. Do you like the idea of having the QB coach in the booth as opposed to on the sideline?
Well, it's another set of eyes, and when the quarterback comes off the field, he'll get on the phones and talk to him. It gives him a better vision of what's going on. He'll compare that to what the quarterback says. It's a good mix.
And he could see from the booth the pressure from Andre Morris. Back-to-back tackles for Morris. This one for a sack on Holbrook and a loss of 7.
Well, anytime you have a brand new quarterback who may not be as comfortable, familiar with protections or blitzes, you're going to bring some pressure. I would expect to see a little bit more of that through Air Force as the night goes along.
So the first series for Holbrook comes to an end. And Adam Miller on the field to punt it away for the Lobos. This will be Reggie Rembert from the 14. Rembert has the sideline and a step, and he dances his way finally out of bounds at the 44-yard line. Air Force will have fantastic field position when we return to Albuquerque.
Not helping themselves out, takes a little bop, but then dives across the goal line, and that's kind of been the mark of this New Mexico offense. They just can't seem to get out of their own way.
And the other storyline going in this game, as Clint McPeak has to stop on Asher Clark, is both teams are now down to their second-string quarterbacks. Donovan Portery was pulled because of ineffectiveness. We'll see how long he stays on the sideline. And for Air Force, Tim Jefferson got banged up after their second series, during their second series, and he will be taken to the locker room, it looks like, here with 12 minutes and change left in the second quarter. So Connor Dietz is at the controls for the Falcons. Clark wrestled down by Frankie Baca, part of the Albuquerque connection out of La Cueva High School, and sophomore Tim Jefferson, who took over last season for Sean Carney, a departing senior. Carney was another Air Force quarterback who started as a freshman, but Jefferson did something no other academy quarterback had done in his first year as a freshman. He took him to a bowl game. 2 with the carry for the first down, stopped by Peter Gardner.
You're right, Tom. When Air Force loses a Tim Jefferson, they lose much more than a good football player. They lose a leader. They lose somebody that has been so good to this offense, has an understanding it. They were really looking forward to his maturation process. You hope the young man's okay. Connor Dietz certainly, because of this system, will be prepared to play, but you're not going to get as much production out of him you would expect than as you would Tim Jefferson. But Troy Calhoun, he talked about the importance of staying healthy, and the Falcons lose a good player early.
Into round Warzika again, and Warzika gets past McPeak. And Warzika already has a touchdown run today, has a gain of 11 for a first down. Frankie Solomon finally with the stop.
This is the same thing that they've come back to, is running the reverse with Warzika. Keep your eye on Clint McPeak up here. The rule of defense is keep outside and in front. McPeak lets Warzika get outside of him for an extra 8 yards. Usually a good player, but broke down defensively there.
Kendall Briscoe on the stop that time. Let's take a look at tonight's Macy's Bio Blast. On Albuquerque native Clint McPeak, former walk-on and a 3-time academic all-conference honoree. McPeak in this game last year had 15 tackles against the Falcons, playing that Lobo position in the old 3-3-5 defense. Play action to Warzika. Dietz looks deep. Overthrew Fogler. Well, it doesn't seem at this point, Aaron, like they have held anything back from Connor Dietz. Perhaps one of the reasons that they benefited from their number 2s getting so much time. And let's not also forget that Connor Dietz got the majority of the snaps in spring ball. Tim Jefferson was held out of spring practice due to academics, and Asher Clark, who got a look at quarterback, was out with a knee injury.
There's no question depth is such a key component of this offense, and you have to when you have the demands of these cadets and what it is they have to do on a day-to-day basis, basically only getting 5 hours of sleep a night because of all of their off-the-field duties. So Air Force, what they like to do to compensate for that is they keep a lot of players running in and out so they stay fresh throughout the game. It gives them depth and it gives them experience. And in a perfect world, Coach Calhoun would like to see mostly juniors and seniors out on the field, but when you have young players that can come in and play, it sure does make a difference.
4th down, Air Force will go for it. Dietz on the draw. Maybe got enough. It will depend on the spot. Trey Hardaway, who is a special team star in years past, has taken over outside linebacker. He has 4 tackles today unofficially.
Another great play call again. Look at the big hole inside the middle of the defense. Connor Dietz goes back to that. They converted on the other end of the field on the same play, the quarterback draw. New Mexico has to find a solution, maybe put a spy on that, or as a defensive lineman, your rule on the draw is retrace your steps. If you go upfield, you have to fold back inside. Hopefully they held on this one. It's going to be close, and it looks like that Air Force gets the 1st down.
So that's a second quarterback draw we've seen from the hard-nosed Connor Dietz.
A lot of times when you want to get pressure, Tom, upfield and be aggressive, that's one of the ways that you make yourself vulnerable as you get out of your rush lane. So to compensate from that, maybe look for the defensive line to fit up and stay a little bit more home, as they say.
Well, it is very different going from the 3-3-5 to the 4-3. All the guys we talked to yesterday said, you know, the 3-3-5, we're playing with our hair on fire. We just had to shoot into a gap, but everybody was blitzing almost every play. And now this year, with guys like Peter Gardner and Jamar Latchison and Kendall Briscoe, now the onus is on that front 4 to make some plays.
No question, the defensive line is to keep the offensive linemen off the linebackers so that they can make the plays in 2 gaps. They have to extend their arms to get in front of the defenders.
This is an option to right side. Asher Clark met hard by Frankie Solomon. Now here's what we're talking about when New Mexico made the move from Rocky Long's 3-3-5 defense to now this 4-3 defense, and Aaron takes us through football 101.
No question, a 3-3-5 refers to how many defensive linemen, linebackers, and defensive back are on the field. The strengths of that are speed, you get to disguise coverages, but the weaknesses are run stopping. The 4-3 adds a defensive lineman. You go from 3 to 4. You have 3 linebackers as well, and you lose that 5th defensive back, but it makes you a better run stopper, but it's not necessarily ideal because you have linebackers that get caught in positions where there's mismatches against the spread offense.
Pretty good, Professor.
I is educated.
Here's Dietz at quarterback, taking over for Tim Jefferson. Air Force out of the eye this time. 3rd down, and they try to stretch it with Clark. Clark has nowhere to go. And he's brought down in the backfield by Jonathan Rainey. The former Hoops player has good speed up front for the Lobos.
The reason this play did so well is because of number 28, Bubba Forrest, does a good job of running down the line of scrimmage right here and forcing the play down the line of scrimmage, keeping outside leverage, forcing everything back inside so that the defensive line in the pursuit can chase him. You have to be able to contain the edges when defending the option.
41-yard field goal attempt for Eric Soderberg. Did he get enough? Pushed it. And Soderberg misses his first field goal of the season. Air Force looking to hold on, up 17-zip. The Volcanoes on the west side of Albuquerque lay dormant, and so does the New Mexico offense thus far. Both teams are down to their second-string quarterbacks. Tim Jefferson for Air Force left with an unspecified injury. We'll get you that info as soon as we can. And Donovan Portery was pulled after an interception led to an Air Force pick 6. And so B.R. Holbrook, who just this week was labeled a second-string quarterback, rolls out and finds his fullback. Gain of 8 on 1st down. Ken Lemondola on the stop. Second touch for Josh Fussell. And coming up later in the game, we will have the Home Depot Tools to Victory. And it will be very interesting because it seems, Aaron, like we're getting down to a point in this game, even just in the second quarter, where this game will be determined on the number of reps that your second-string quarterback got throughout fall camp, throughout spring ball. And now this week leading up to this game, you don't expect to need your second-string quarterback.
No, and if that's the case, Air Force certainly has the advantage there. But I like what I'm seeing out of B.R. Holbrook and also offensive coordinator Daryl Dickey. They are not holding back from this young man. What they are doing, though, is they're moving him around in the pocket using play action to help keep the defense honest and safe and limit his reads.
Holbrook completed 56% of his passes in high school. Incomplete. Looking for Daryl Jones. Coverage by Anthony Wright. 5-on-5. Jersey numbers 1-on-1 down the sideline.
Tom, this pass was just merely about aiming point. He throws it on his outside shoulder when he has inside leverage where the receiver has to stop and bend back out to his outside. Had he thrown that ball inside, he might have had a chance, Jones, to be able to break on the ball and come down with a big catch that would have gave some spark to this offense.
Mike Loxley has worked with some fantastic quarterbacks in his day as an offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Last year at Illinois, the Illini led the Big Ten in passing. 2 years before, they led the Big Ten in rushing with Rashard Mendenhall. Juice Williams was the quarterback all 3 seasons. Then before that at Florida.
56. 5-yard penalty, second down.
Before that at Florida was national champion Chris Leak. Mike Cannon at left guard with the jump.
Mike Cannon, the backup left guard. You got a backup left guard and a backup center. Sometimes there's going to be a cadence. You have guys that aren't used to being in there. You're going to have some false starts. There's been some on both sides. Air Force had one as well.
And Ivan Hernandez is in the game at right tackle for the Lobos. He didn't start last week. A.J. Butler tries to stretch for an extra yard. And that will leave 3rd and long. 3rd and 14 after the carry by Butler, the second-year freshman from St. Petersburg Catholic High School in Florida.
Well, we know what we're seeing out of New Mexico, but one of the things we're not seeing is 2 of their better players, Donovan Portery and Damon Dennis, both purportedly because they've made some big mistakes and turning the football over. You do not have a chance to win no matter how good you are if you do not protect the football.
Already a pair of turnovers today for the Lobos on 3rd and 14. Holbrook has plenty of time. And intercepted. John Davis with his second pick of the game. That one went off the receiver's hands. And it's a 3rd turnover of the night for the Lobos.
Another costly mistake by New Mexico. B.R. Holbrook doing a good job, good protection up front. The Big Uglies are doing their job. Floats the ball, throws it a little bit inside. A rule for a quarterback, you do not throw the ball high over the middle. He's locked onto his receiver. He never takes his eyes off. That gives the defense all the help that they need. John Davis comes over and takes advantage of that inexperience.
John Davis in his career hadn't picked off a pass coming into this game. He has 2 tonight. Dietz on the rollout finds 2. McPeak drags him down, but not until after he picks up 12 yards on 1st down.
Again, going back to that last play, Tom, it's not all on the quarterback. As a receiver, you have to be able to catch the ball, and that's certainly one of the things that Air Force and their offense do a very good job of is their ball skills. They don't throw it much, but when they do, they typically have success.
In the option, we've learned, especially with teams like Georgia Tech and Navy and Air Force, it's all about taking advantage of those pass plays because you're not gonna go deep very often.
No, not at all. And if you're seeing every single play coming at you being a run, you're going to get lulled to sleep, which is why it's a great changeup to go downfield. Typically, the academies haven't had good passing offenses to complement it, but we've seen what success that Navy's had this year by being able to throw the football.
Asher Clark powers his way up the middle. Carmen Messina brings him down after Clark moves the chain again. And another Air Force 1st down. The first 2 New Mexico turnovers led to 10 Air Force points. And now the Falcons trying to take advantage again.
And this is how they kill you. Air Force, it's a slow death. They nickel and dime you. If they can get 3.5 to 4 yards of carry, they are happy. They just want to eat the clock up and start chipping away.
Already 14 first downs for Air Force today. Tamar Latchison on the stop that time. on Asher Clark.
Talked about Asher Clark's speed and his ability to be able to plant and get upfield and run inside and be tough. He's a nice dual threat runner because he does have the speed to get outside, but he can tuck the football and not afraid to mix it up as well. Nice 5-yard gain by that young man.
And you wouldn't expect at 5'8", 185 to be a power guy. Here's more power game for Air Force. Again with the fullback. Nathan Walker stopped by Messina. 29 of the 33 plays from scrimmage for Air Force have been run plays.
Yeah, and that's what they do. That's what this offense is. A lot of hands on the hips by the Lobos defenders right now. Tired, maybe mentally a little worn out because they know that they put themselves in a chance to win, but the mistakes have been costly.
And now 2 lunges for the goal line. 2nd and goal coming up. Frankie Baca with the stop.
Jared, too, is quickly becoming one of their go-to guys. Had 5 touchdowns in only 3 starts. But look at the physical push up front. Air Force does not have a very big offensive line, but they are disciplined. They come out low, they fire off, they keep their legs moving, and by doing that, they give the running backs room to run.
A flag before the play gets off.
Going to be on left guard, Nick Charles.
False start, number 57, offense. White, 5 yards, 2nd down.
Rare mistake a mental error by the Air Force Falcons, but again, with a new quarterback, with a new cadence, sometimes it's hard to come off the football and be on the same page. As an offensive lineman, you start to get into a rhythm, and when you have a new quarterback, that rhythm's going to be a little different, and right there, Nick Charles is a little offbeat.
So backs him up, 2nd and goal. Xavier Stevens, touchdown Air Force. 3 scores for the Falcons off of 3 New Mexico turnovers.
Air Force doing another great job of capturing the edge. The linebackers get caught up in the middle on the dive, put their hands on the ground. The safeties are too late getting over there, and they just use speed to get to the corner. Air Force does a tremendous job of being able to circle defenses and capture that corner and use speed to get to the edge. And if you do not have pursuit, you end up with a touchdown.
Eric Soderberg with another extra point. 17 points off of 3 New Mexico turnovers for the opportunistic Air Force Falcons. Most success. Text your answer to 88222. And this will be, we're thinking of this as long-term success, not just one season. And so far, you think Dave Christensen at Wyoming is the guy. Wyoming got shut out on the road by Colorado today, or at least last check they were. And how about Brady Hoke at San Diego State? No love for the Aztecs.
None at all. He's a very good coach, and he's done a great job putting the staff together. Brian Sipe, great quarterback, local from the area on his staff. But nobody's been able to win at San Diego State, and there's such a great talent pool and what they're able to pull from. You would think that if anybody has a proven record of turning programs around, it'd be Brady Hoke. On the other hand, I think I'm optimistic about the Aztecs.
Here's Dennis from the 4. And Damon Dennis, the freshman running back, returns it to the 27-yard line. All right, let's give you a little bit more information about these guys. If you want more research as to who you think may be best long-term in their position, of course, Coach Loxley here, the offensive coordinator at Illinois, before that Florida. Dave Christensen coached the spread offense with Chase Daniel and company at Missouri, had some fantastic weapons with the Tigers, took them to a #1 national ranking at one point last season. And Brady Hoke was the head coach at Ball State and did a fantastic job there to get the opportunity on Montezuma Mesa. I go a little too long on Dave Christensen there.
You seem to pause a little bit on Missouri. I just noticed that.
Holbrook has a man for a first down, and that's the tight end Lucas Reed. Second catch of the season for Reed.
Reed, a very big target, and oftentimes for a new quarterback, a tight end is a quarterback's best friend. Reed on a drag, just doing a good job of sitting himself in the seam, getting in front of Phil O'Feely, the safety, was trailing him.
And here's a burst up the middle. James Wright has daylight. Touchdown, Lobos. A 48-yard sprint for the sophomore from Dallas. Bang, bang, 2 plays, we told you this offense could be explosive.
Oftentimes, big plays happen right up in the middle. They just circle the defense with some misdirection. The safeties in cover 2 couldn't collapse on it enough, and James Wright using tremendous burst to get up on the inside. That's the way to get some spark and get your offense going, and that's what this spread offense can do. Again, it's not a matter of if these things are going to click here in Albuquerque. It's a matter of when, and on that last play, we found out.
Aho to attempt the extra point. Bad hold, looked like the snap was good, and Adam Miller tosses it incomplete after everybody burst out on the fire play. Miller says, hey, I had him there. Well, with 3:29 to go in the second quarter of game number 3, the Lobos have their first offensive touchdown of the season. New Mexico's on the board, 24-6. Air Force with the lead as the Lobos find their first touchdown since Thanksgiving weekend of last year. It'd been 15-plus quarters since the Lobos had found the end zone, and this time it was James Wright.
Well, a lot of times, whether you're a defensive lineman or a hitter in baseball trying to hit a home run, the first one is the hardest. Now that New Mexico has gotten a touchdown, seen that when they execute the plays and they do what they're taught to do, that it works, that's going to give them the confidence that they're going to need. This team lacked confidence offensively. Without question, when Rocky Long was here, the mark of this team was as a defensive ball game, and the offense kind of took second fiddle. One of the things that Coach Lotry talked about was having to turn that around. Plays like that help.
From the 6. Room for Rembert. Rembert out of bounds at about the 42-yard line. Let's take another look at that 48-yard gallop by Wright.
Well, you live by the sword and you die by the sword. Air Force wanted to do a lot of slanting where they're going inside. Keep your eye right there on Josh Fussell. It's a simple counter. He pulls, kicks out. The defensive line of Air Force takes himself out of the ball. Then it's just about getting north-south and using your speed. James Wright doing a good job. A simple counter play can turn into a touchdown when you do and you execute.
Mike Loxley had a feeling that in years past, when the offense scored a touchdown in practice, that Rocky Long, as the defensive mindset that he had, wouldn't be excited about it. And in fact, he saw that when his guys scored a touchdown, there was no celebration. And he said, fellas, you just scored a touchdown. Let's get loose. Let's celebrate a little bit. Isn't it odd that a head coach would have to tell his guys to be excited and to celebrate a touchdown in a scrimmage or in a practice?
It's very odd, but I think it's mostly a case of those guys, again, having a segregated team where the offense and the defense are really almost antagonistic.
Well, coming up at the half in our Inside College Football studios,
Mexico,
Adam Zucker and Brian Jones will be behind the desk. They'll have all the highlights, including a couple of major tests for the big boys of the Mountain West. Cougars at home against Bobby Bowden in Florida State. Utah suffered a loss on the road against Oregon, and we'll catch you up to date on Texas Tech Texas Showdown, plus show you how Lane Kiffin and the Vols fared in the Swamp. So plenty of college football action today. And oh, by the way, my #1 team, Southern Cal, opened Pac-10 play with a loss today, Aaron.
Yes, they did. They had the quarterback change, of course. Matt Barkley sitting down with the shoulder injury, and Aaron Corp. But historically, USC has always struggled in the Pacific Northwest, where it's Oregon, Oregon State. Now you can add Washington to that list. It was a drizzly day. It was kind of dreary, and Washington has a coaching staff. Both their offensive defensive coordinator, their head coach are very familiar with what USC did. Take credit and give credit where credit is due. They came to play and found a way to win. Huge, huge win for that program and Coach Steve Sarkisian.
Third down, Asher Clark picks up a first down, and that will move the chain for Air Force. Trey Hardaway with 5 tackles thus far in the first half for New Mexico. A busy day in college football. They'll get caught up to date on everything around the nation. And I'm not so sure. BYU is a top 10 team, according to the pollsters. And I'm not so sure that they're not the best team in the league. I mean, I think when you look at it, coming into the season, BYU had some question marks along the offensive line. Utah had some quarterback questions. TCU in my mind, was the best team in the Mountain West Conference. It could shake out like that before we're finished as you look at the AP Top 10 and what they did today. Florida didn't beat the odds makers, winning by 10 at home against Tennessee. And USC lost to the Huskies. 2nd and 10. To the fullback. Picks up 2.
Well, I tell you what, I wholeheartedly agree. BYU's a very good football team. We know what they do offensively with Pitt Onga and Max Hall, but TCU and their defense wins championship. 3 out of the last 9 years, TCU has had the #1 total defense in the country. They know how to play football down there, so until those games are played, the Mountain West is not going to be decided. TCU will be a factor in the Mountain West Conference Championship. Book that, count on it. They are every year.
Clark up the middle, bounces it outside. First down, Air Force.
Carry by number 17.
Little improvisation, if you will, from Asher Clark.
And that's one of the things he can do, and as players get older, they learn how to do this. He has such an incredible athletic ability to be able to find space and room to run when there aren't things, taking it out. And when you're a running back and you don't follow your blockers, you're on your own, you better get the gains that you want to. And right there, Asher Clark does a great job of it.
76 yards in the first half thus far for the tailback Asher Clark. Here's his 17th carry of the night. He'll rip off another big one, but a flag on the backside might bring this one back. Brett Kennedy is a defensive lineman for New Mexico. He made that tackle a good 17 yards from the line of scrimmage.
And that's what you want at your defensive line and all your defensive players as a whole is swarming
number
to the
62
football.
offense. 10 yards previous spot. Repeat first down.
Peter Lusk, senior from Raleigh, North Carolina. Here's his name, but not the way he wanted, as that brings back a big gain for Air Force.
You know, a lot of times when you're an undersized offensive lineman, and certainly at 270 pounds, Peter Lusk, and probably across the board, admittedly, Air Force is small. You get yourselves out of position, you're forced to hold. Uncharacteristic penalty for this offense.
They keep it up the middle on 1st and 20. Another stop for Trey Hardaway.
I think all in all, New Mexico's defense is doing a good job of containing this Air Force offense. This offense is explosive, and they can take it to the house seemingly at will against some opponents. Nicholls State would certainly think so.
To the tune of 72, I think so.
Well, what you have to do is be able to create 2nd and long and 3rd and longs, and that's where they find themselves now.
Where Zika's bottled up on the edge, and he'll have to hustle to get back to the line of scrimmage. Clint McPeak with the stop.
And this is the same thing that we talked about earlier in the game. We saw Clint McPeak right here. Keep your eye on him. Not stay inside out or outside in and force it inside. This time he fights across the defender, keeps himself on the outside in, funnels the running back to the inside where Zika and the defense and allows that to come down and get the tackle. When you keep leverage and keep this option outside in, that's when good things happen.
Connor Dietz is 1 of 3 through the air thus far. He's going to run the draw again, and McPeak gets him by his shoelace. A gain of 2, and that will bring up 4th down from the 25-yard line, but the time ticking away here in the first half.
Clint McPeak grew up as a kid in the service. His dad was in the military, former walk-on, has a great nose for the football, did an excellent job on that play again of almost getting blocked. Stayed up on his feet, crossed face, forced the flow and the runner back inside and makes the tackle. That's how you convert and get yourself off the field as a defensive football player.
3 seconds left. Air Force will use a timeout. We saw a good leg from Eric Soderberg in warm-ups today, but that was before sunset and before the wind started to get whipped up. Let's take a look at tonight's Macy's BioBlast on Air Force junior wide receiver Kevin Fogler. Fogler from Fort Wayne, Indiana, out of Bishop Dwenger High School, has a touchdown in both games thus far this season. 3 grabs for 113 yards coming into this one. And Fogler was the target early, but he only has 1 catch so far today for the golf and snowboarding enthusiasts. You're in the right spot. If you like golf and snowboarding,
yeah, Colorado's
on the front range.
Colorado's certainly not bad. One of those touchdowns was last week against Minnesota, and he actually scored the first touchdown ever in that new Minnesota stadium.
42-yard attempt for Soderberg. He hit a couple from 53 in warmups. And that one gets tipped at the line for the second time today. New Mexico gets a hand on it. It was Carmen Messina. So a late touchdown for New Mexico avoids this first half shutout. Air Force blocked a field goal, and now New Mexico gets in on the fun.
That's just all about penetration and push going up inside. I believe that's going to be Peter Gardner again, 93, with his hand up blocking the full.
Joined now down on the field by Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun. Coach, thanks for being with us. The first things first, you're going with Connor Dietz now since Tim Jefferson left. What is your confidence factor with Dietz?
Well, he's a young guy that can play, and he just needs to get out there and kind of settle in a little bit. We still need to run our offense with him.
And speaking of running your offense, uncharacteristic, you had a couple penalties, false starts, and not necessarily as crisp as you guys have been. What do you attribute to those mistakes?
Well, part of it, you know, I think naturally, Aaron, anytime you get a different quarterback in there, even as much as you try to resemble their cadence exactly the same, we haven't handled that. And it's something in the second half we've got to handle exceptionally well.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
It's Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun. Stay tuned for Inside College Football Studio.
And they're shooting themselves in the foot. You have seen the emergence of a running game. B.R. Holbrook coming off the bench doing a fine job. If they can prevent those, they're going to do a good job because the defense is more or less holding their own. But when you have a freshman running back doing such a good job breaking up the middle, you can't afford to turn the football over. This led to an eventual field goal and then pressure. Donovan Portery throwing across his body. Anthony Wright doing a good job, John Davis, of taking this all the way back for a touchdown. Not doing a good job of getting themselves in a position to win. Then B.R. Holbrook goes a little bit behind the receiver, Victor James, and another interception. Big turnover for the Falcon defense. The story of this game, 17 different points off of turnovers that we talked about. If New Mexico can hold on to the football and create some turnovers of their own defensively with a new quarterback there, they'll easily get themselves back in this game.
First half stats reeled in by Bass Pro Shops. Quick chat with New Mexico quarterbacks coach T. Martin at the half. He said that B.R. Holbrook is the guy, and once again, they like Donovan Portery. You just cannot afford turnovers. Reggie Rembert and Jared Two back to return. Air Force will get the ball to start the second half. They collide, but it's Rembert who comes out. And Reggie Rembert beats the kicker. He's past midfield, and Rembert with the return to the 30. He is indeed a cadet in good standing.
You have to play disciplined on special teams. That's one of the things that Air Force does a good job of. Reggie Rembert getting the ball. They welcome this young back. He's back in good standing, not only with the university, but also with his special teams coach. Just doing a great job of following his blocks, using his vision to get upfield. New Mexico must do a much better job covering kicks.
A 62-yard return for Reggie Rembert. The option. Here's Asher Clark. Gain of nearly 5 on first down. What did New Mexico defensive coordinator Doug Mallory tell us yesterday? He said if this Air Force offense gets 3 or 3.5 yards a carry or a play, then they are right on target. If they're able to rip off 5 and 6, they're ahead of pace.
There's no question, and that's one of the things that they want to do. It's a ball control offense. It makes you play very disciplined, makes you play very assignment-savvy, sound football. After a while, there's going to be breakdowns, and that's when your big plays hit. But 3 yards in a cloud of dust is what this offense is predicated upon, and Air Force does it beautifully, better than anybody in the country.
And they're averaging tonight 5.3 yards a play. And doing so mainly behind second-string quarterback Connor Dietz. Tim Jefferson left this game in the second quarter with an injury. Third and short, the fullback 2. Second effort may have gotten it. Hardaway with the stop.
And Tom, that's something that we talked about, how unconventional it is to have your second string get so many different reps. And that's really something that Troy Calhoun's done a great job of, and it's almost been out of necessity. But we're seeing a beautiful example here tonight with a backup quarterback, Connor Dietz, being able to come in and not necessarily really skip a beat. Air Force is just knocking on the door of having 200 yards rushing tonight, doing a very good job. And although Connor Dietz is no Tim Jefferson, this offense is still clicking.
2, again up the gut. The word on Tim Jefferson is that a sprained ankle will keep him sidelined for the time being. And if you're up 24-6, what's the rush in getting Jefferson back out there, especially since this is a tremendous test in a Mountain West Conference opener for your young quarterback, Connor Dietz.
No question, and a huge test on the road for this team, a place that they've struggled at times a little bit, but being able to come on the road, run your offense, and have some success early on, particularly in your first Mountain West Conference game, this is a great way to start conference play in your league.
So Peter Gardner, the junior from Hartford, Connecticut, with the stop. Air Force has won 9 straight Mountain West Conference openers, and if they can continue to run the ball like this and share it, 6 different Falcons with a touch, then they will be successful. Stevens and Ruzicka each have a touchdown today. Dragged down from behind, and Kendall Briscoe makes the stop for New Mexico.
Kendall Briscoe, a very good athletic defensive lineman, does a good job of getting penetration upfield. It's a little bit of a delay fake with Connor Dietz, just closes on the football, flashes, and that's one of the things that can help stop this potent offense is by getting penetration up front. And right there, Briscoe does a great job.
Loss of 3, that sets up this 30-yard attempt. And it's banged through by Eric Soderberg. So Air Force scores on its very first possession of the second half. They pick up right where they left off in the first. Which first-year head coach in the Mountain West Conference will have the most success at his current school? Mike Locksley from New Mexico, our first choice. You can text your answers to 88222. For Mike Locksley, text C1. For Wyoming's Dave Christensen, text C2. Or for Brady Hoke of San Diego State, hit C3. That's 88222. Send it in now. We'll take a live look at the results as we continue here in the second half from the Duke City. Dennis and Bruno back. This is Bruno from the 6. Flag on the play. Only made it out to the 19 anyway. Andy Amack with the stop for the Falcons. Well, another opportunity for B.R. Holbrook.
Number 16, return team. Half the distance, first down.
CFO West Crew, I aired earlier. They are made up, or they serve, I should say, the Mountain West Conference, the WAC, and Conference USA, along with the Big 12. And so New Mexico will be backed up to the 9-yard line. Take a look at the scores throughout the Mountain West Conference today. Colorado pitches a shutout at Folsom Field against Wyoming. Number 18, Utah, loses on the road at Oregon. Idaho beating San Diego State, and Florida State blowing out BYU now in the fourth quarter in Provo. On the ground, the Lobos. And you know, Aaron, for a league that has had so many big wins in its recent history, that Florida State BYU game stands out as kind of a missed opportunity.
There's no question. Everybody, after they had knocked Oklahoma off, had a lot of expectations. They had Max Hall, you know, a dark horse for the Heisman contender, and everybody was talking about in the offseason about the big stink that the Mountain West was making. Huge opportunity. That's what they would have needed to do, is win that Florida State game to be able to have a shot getting to the dance in the BCS.
Well, they know all about big wins in this conference. Take a look back at some of the signature victories. A few years ago, Air Force went into South Bend and got away with the win. Then last year, BYU opened the season with a shutout of UCLA. Wyoming ended the Phil Fulmer era with the win at Neyland Stadium, and Utah remained perfect with the shellacking of Alabama. This year got off to a great start as BYU took down the third-ranked Sooners. I think the key to those signature wins is they're only as important as your next victory. Another pick for Air Force. And Davis has his third of the night. Pardon me, Anthony Wright with the third pick of the night for the Falcons secondary. John Davis has a pair, and now Anthony Wright picks one up.
Great job by this defensive backfield by Air Force. They're just taking the balls that are laid up there. B.R. Holbrook puts a little bit too much air trying to get the ball to Ty Kirk, but again, throwing high over the middle, and the defensive backs of Air Force doing a great job of breaking on the football. Throws it right to him. That's a sign of being a young quarterback, Tom. It's one thing to be able to be a good quarterback and have a lot of promise, but when you don't get to see a lot of looks in practice, it makes it difficult.
Jared, 2 up the middle, picks up a couple on first and goal. You know, going back to my thought about signature wins, I thought the Alabama victory in the Sugar Bowl was huge for Utah because it capped the season. I thought the Oklahoma win for BYU this year would only be as good as what would happen tonight against Florida State. I don't mean to say that win against Oklahoma is meaningless now, but it sure loses a lot of its juice once they lose to Florida State. Clark buries his head and gets inside the 5.
And it particularly loses its juice in the big picture.
Sure.
It's a non-conference win, so BYU still has a lot of their goals on the table. But if they lose this ball game tonight, which it certainly looks like they're going to do, any aspirations they have about being ranked enough to get into the big dance and make some noise in the BCS as a non-automatic qualifier, those disappear.
Injured player on the ground for New Mexico is Frankie Solomon, senior from Dallas, Texas. Had 10 tackles in the opener against Texas A&M. This is not the kind of result that Mike Locksley was hoping for tonight.
No, it's not. And going back to our conversation about the Mountain West, that's one of the things that is really a disadvantage of the Mountain West. You can't go with one loss coming out of the Mountain West or a non-automatic qualified team and expect to win. You can out of the SEC, and shoot, LSU did it with 2 losses, but you're certainly not going to be able to do it out of this conference.
Take a look at the left side of your screen. Frankie Solomon tries to stop and plant. And then in on the tackle on the stop of Asher Clark. Tough to see where he rolled his right ankle. Well, it's already been as good a start to the season through 2 weeks as you could hope for in many ways in the Mountain West Conference before today. I mean, when you look at the top 25 poll and the teams that they have ranked, it is clear that they are getting the national respect that they so deserved last season. 3rd and goal for Air Force. I think a lot of times, Aaron, you almost get the respect in the back end.
No question.
Quarterback is Dietz on the option pitch to Clark, and Clark will be thrown for a loss of a couple. That'll bring up 4th and goal. Frankie Baca in with his 5th stop of the day, and Carmen Messina has another helper for New Mexico.
Good job by the defense holding on 3rd down. Again, if you're able to contain and circle this offense and make them force yourself back in, as the Lobos do here, you have a chance. Baca does a good job of coming up and making the tackle and forcing the field goal.
24-yard field goal is good for Soderberg. The sophomore adds another for the Falcons. They lead by 24. His squad in the turnover department. And on the season, they're +9. Their only turnover came in the Minnesota game on a busted assignment. Tim Jefferson is running the option. Turned to throw it to his pitchman, and the pitchman wasn't there. Oops. And before he could get it safely tucked back in, he took a hit and coughed it up. Bruno from the 7 to the 20. Time now to take a look at the Home Depot tools for victory.
Well, one of the things you have to do is be able to cause pressure and force turnovers. Turnovers are so important to this Air Force team, both protecting the football and generating them on defense. They've done a great job tonight. B.R. Holbrook throws the ball a little bit behind. The receiver can't come down with it. John Davis does another good job, and what we just saw not too long ago, again playing up for grabs. Anthony Wright, the cornerback, doing a good job. Turnovers, Tom, absolutely a tool to victory, particularly for the Falcons.
First and 10 for New Mexico. Holbrook pressured. Let's go a laser. Looked a little low, but it's scooped up by Bryant Williams.
And turnovers, not only just for tonight, but for Troy Calhoun and his team. They are plus 30 in the 2 seasons that he's been here. And in the 14 of the 18 games that they've won, they've been plus 2 or better. Turnovers and protecting the football are a critical piece to Falcon success.
Here's the option. Whoa, what a hit! Snuffed out by Anthony Wright. Anthony Wright sees that play every day in practice, and Air Force had that defended as well as anybody.
You almost have to question that play calling for that very fact. Running the option on a team that sees it every day maybe isn't the best thing to do, but B.R. Holbrook has a little bit of wiggle, but you're not going to fool Anthony Wright. We talked about the importance of cornerbacks coming up and containing the option, particularly on the pitch. That's why right there.
3rd and 10 for B.R. Holbrook. Air Force brings some pressure. Holbrook can't escape, and he's brought down in the backfield by Miles Morales. A loss of 10, 4th and 20, and here comes the punt team.
Miles Morales is the best pass rusher for them. A senior, does a good job of staying active. Holbrook looking downfield, has to roll the pocket, doesn't see what he likes downfield, tucks the ball. Morales just does a good job of getting there. When you have coverage and you don't have your receivers open, it's going to give the defensive lineman time to get to the quarterback.
Adam Miller will try to get it off from his own end zone. Falcons should come away with great field position again. This is Wright. And Wright gets wrestled to the ground by Victor James. 41-yard punt that time from Miller. Another solid return for the Falcons, and they will dial it up in Lobo territory. It's 30-6. Air Force leads New Mexico 30-6. Now it's time for tonight's hardest hit, brought to you by Sonic's Everyday Value Menu. You listen, I'm going to tweet during this.
Well, this is a play that we just saw Anthony Wright doing a good job coming up and hitting, breaking down outside. Number 5, Daryl Jones from New Mexico. That's his responsibility to break him. One of the differences in this ball game is the blocking on the outside. Air Force has the advantage.
Straight up the gut with the fullback. 4 yards on first down for Air Force. Peter Gardner with the stop. Let's take a look at our Bud Light Stats 6-pack. Four turnovers for New Mexico, 20 points off of it. Otherwise, Air Force's offense still looking pretty good with 206 yards on the ground.
But only 251 yards total. So, yeah, they're being able to run the football, but all in all, New Mexico has contained this offense, given the fact that they've had their backs against the wall and been put in bad situations. This defense may be a little bit further along, obviously, than the offense. A holdover, of course, from Rocky Long and his defense. But, Tom, you're not going to win any games turning the football over.
Well, Mike Locksley thinks he'll win games here in Albuquerque with a fantastic coaching staff, and the experience that they bring here to Albuquerque is really unheralded. As he took over this program, he went out and found guys. Basically, he told us using 1 degree of separation, and all of them have fantastic backgrounds. Daryl Dickey was the head coach at North Texas. He's the offensive coordinator here. Co-defensive coordinator at LSU last year. Doug Mallory comes from a football family. 2 brothers are coaches. His dad is the winningest coach in Indiana history. Reuben Carter was part of that Orange Crush defense. He's the D-line coach. Cheston Blackshear won a national championship at Florida back in 1996 for Steve Spurrier. And oh, by the way, T. Martin quarterbacked the Vols to a Phil Fulmer national championship in 1998. All in all, 128 years of coaching experience, 25 bowl games, coached 19 as a player, 3 Super Bowls as players, and 2 college national titles. That is a solid stat.
That's about as best that you want. Recruiting is really what's going to have to change here and getting the types of players that you need to run his system.
They're going to roll out Dietz. Great touch on the pass for a first down and a touchdown. Kevin Fogler with the score for the Falcons. A 28-yard extra effort score for Air Force.
Air Force doing a good job of rolling Dietz outside of the pocket. Off the play action, fakes, rolls out. You see Fogler just dragging across the field. Great football right there, and a missed tackle. You have to be able to wrap up. Allows the touchdown.
37 points on the board for Air Force tonight.
Tom, that was Anthony Hooks, the quarterback. We talked about him needing a big night to be able to keep this offense in check. Cornerbacks are so important, but he missed the tackle there, allowing the touchdown. And a couple other times tonight on the edge, not forcing that option back inside. But that's what Air Force is going to do to you. They're going to test you and make you play fundamentally sound football, and thus far tonight they've had the advantage.
This Air Force program put 72 points on the board against Nicholls State week 1. Lost by opening Minnesota's new building last week 20-13. They average, we're not even in the fourth quarter, they're averaging nearly 41 points a game this season, thanks to 37 tonight. And I watched Minnesota, I watched a good chunk of that Minnesota game today. Defensively, they did a great job to hold down one of the most dynamic quarterback-wide receiver combos to only 20 points.
There's no question, and they do it because they're very athletic. They're an attacking style defense. They bring pressure at the right times, but they're fundamentally sound. They're very rarely out of position, and when you play heart and soul and swarm tackle, you're going to play good defense.
Roland Bruno with his best return thus far spins his way out to the 22-yard line. It's been a busy day on the CBS College Sports Network, and we're not done after this one. But it got started at high noon when Army took care of Ball State with a 24-17 victory. And Southern Miss with a come-from-behind victory over Virginia at the Rock in Hattiesburg, 37-34. Jamison Carter for Army rushed for a touchdown and 57 yards, and Damian Fletcher sets the all-time Southern Miss rush record with a pair of scores today. He's got 40 in his career. And what a job Larry Fedora is doing at Southern Miss. Mike Locksley is tight with Larry Fedora. And it's funny, we talk about how he put together this coaching staff. When you spend so many years in football, all of a sudden you can look to different staffs and programs and say, I know that guy. Kevin Sumlin's good friends with him. Larry Fedora at Southern Miss, and he now has all these assistants are now moving up, kind of his generation of assistants. And all of a sudden, Aaron, he's got a great support staff to call on as other head coaches.
There's no question. They're not lacking in leadership and experience and know-how on this coaching staff. And like a lot of things in a lot of groups, the coaches it's a very close-knit group. And whether it's in business or any sort of thing, it's all about almost who you know, not necessarily what you know. And certainly Mike Locksley being friends with Larry Fedora was directly related to him getting this job.
Yeah, and to illustrate that point, as New Mexico faces a 3rd and 14 here, Holbrook swings it out. A.J. Butler picks up a few. That will be 4th down. The president of the University of New Mexico system here is David Schmidley. He had a key role in bringing Mike Locksley to Albuquerque. You know how David Schmidley did his homework on Mike Locksley? He talked to his old barber back in College Station, Texas. His barber is Larry Fedora's dad. And so he was able to do homework while sitting in the barber's chair, getting a snip or two. Hey, what do you know about Mike Locksley? Would he be a good fit? It's all about who you know, isn't it?
There's no question, and that's why we're talking about these sort of situations where you have young guys that deserve opportunities getting those opportunities, and a lot of times it can come down to that. It can come down to having a relationship, and you have to be really careful no matter where it is you're at, kind of the reputation that you give and the air that you give and kind of the relationships that you develop along the way, because you never know when it's going to come back to bite you or help you.
Did your barber ever give you a job?
No, not at all. In fact, I don't know if anybody would give me a recommendation for anything.
Well, not with that haircut, probably not.
No. And I, for the record, went to the barber to get my back hair shaved and not my head.
This broadcast has suddenly taken a turn. Just as this game, that 4 turnovers for New Mexico, 1 for Aaron tonight. Here's Asher Clark trying to stretch it out. And Clark gets stood up. And, you know, we talked a lot about Air Force. He may have coughed up the football. The Lobos say they have it. And New Mexico, I think, exits the pile with the pigskin. Frankie Solomon had it in his mitts. And there's something to hang your hat on for the Lobos, an opportunity provided for the offense by the defense.
No question, and it's just this sort of thing that you need to spark your team. Yeah, you're down by 31 points, but it doesn't mean that you stop playing hard. Wrapping up, Asher Clark doing a good job, gets held up and gets the ball stripped right there. Tremendous job by this Lobo defense. Look at all the red hats around that football. When you swarm to the football and you run, good stuff happens, Tom.
I think it was Carmen Messina who got his hand in there to strip it away. Solomon recovered. Oh, pardon me, Messina stripped it and recovered it. Out of the shotgun is Holbrook. Good pocket presence, dumps it off for a gain of 4. Something you may not expect from a guy with just a few snaps under his belt as he finds Butler. The ability to evade the rush. Ken Lemondola with the stop.
New Mexico going to an up-tempo offense here. Call it their 2-minute drill with more than 2 minutes left. Trying to get something generated.
That will go for a first down. Chris Hernandez with his first grab. Justin Moore with the stop. The coaches for New Mexico, including Daryl Dickey, talked about the opportunity to control the tempo out of the spread. It's not always pedal to the metal, go as fast as you can. Now at this point, with less than 4 minutes to go in the third quarter, it very much is as quick a tempo as you can get.
There's no question. They want to try and score as many points as they can, but going up tempo does a couple things. It wears the opponent down. It gets them also caught in special defenses where they can't exchange personnel, and it creates the matchups that you want, that the spread is dedicated or predicated upon in creating those matchups. So going up tempo, particularly when you're behind, is almost a necessity for them, but it serves more than a purpose of just trying to score as many points as quickly as you can.
The man in the headset is J.B. Gerald. He's the one that signals the plays to quarterback B.R. Holbrook. Daryl Dickey and Mike DeGore are upstairs along with quarterback coach T. Martin. As soon as the play ends, they send in the formation and the play call through the headsets down to the sideline. You see the New Mexico coaching staff upstairs. And then it's up to a pair of coaches to relay the signals, not just to the quarterback, but also to the line. Formation first and then play.
There was a lot going on. It looked like they were doing some pop locking in the funky chicken, but each one of those hand signals means something to each of the groups. The quarterback comes up to the line of scrimmage, tells the offensive line what the protection or what the run scheme is.
Wasn't quick enough that time. The play clock runs out on the Lobos. And that's the concern if you're Daryl Dickey.
Timeout.
New Mexico's able to use a timeout here, but
timeout.
He admitted that's a concern up in the booth, able to read the defense and get the play down to our guys as soon as we can. Offensive coordinator Daryl Dickey at one point won 25 of 26 games in the Sun Belt Conference at North Texas. He's in the far right of your screen, and let's see what they dial up for this third down play coming out of the Lobo timeout. 37-6, Air Force in front of New Mexico. 2:50 to go in the third quarter, and here's a third down opportunity for quarterback B.R. Holbrook out of the eye. Needed 2, got 2. It was James Wright, 6 feet even, 239 pounds with the carry. Take a look at what the service academies have accomplished today in college football. Army with the home win over Ball State right here on the CBS College Sports Network. And Pittsburgh gets revenge on a Navy team which won at home against the Panthers last year. They take care of the Mids today, 27-14.
Been impressed, Tom, with the job that Ken Niumatalolo has done with that Navy team, and the transition was so smooth, and Also added Ricky Dobbs, a passing game that has been pretty much non-existent for there. I think that's going to help them long term.
Just short, 4th and short, and why not keep the big guys in there? Mexico's going to line up and go. I think they did this against Tulsa. They might just rush to the ball and try to get one off quick.
They did a great job against it and actually blew Tulsa quite a bit off the ball. They caught them sleeping. Looks like Air Force is quite ready, but when it comes down to it, 4th down plays are about desire and execution.
Holbrook sneaks his way for a 1st down. They only needed a half a foot. And it helps when you're running behind a big guy like center Eric Cook, 6'6", 318. Cook is an Albuquerque native. His older brother Ryan played here on the offensive line and now is in the league with the Vikings. Ryan is good friends with former New Mexico wide receiver Hank Baskett. 1st and 10. Play action. He slipped. Play was dead when Miles Morales threw him down, and that will be a personal foul, and that will be enough for a 1st down.
Costly mistake again by Miles Morales, uncharacteristic again for this Air Force team.
Clipping, number 56 offense. 15-yard penalty.
Never mind.
What? That was not.
Take another look.
Calling it on the right guard, clipping.
Penalty is declined. 2nd down.
And Mike Cannon dove at the legs from behind. And so that turns it into a 2nd and 18. Cannon working at left guard now. Holbrook gets drilled, and that pass will fall incomplete. And Holbrook, at the very least, is going to have to catch his breath. Miles Morales hit him in the numbers.
Well, this isn't going to spell very good if B.R. Holbrook's hurt. They're going to have to put Donovan Portery back in. I would imagine with that offensive line breaking down up front, doing a good job, but on a TE on the left side, Byron Bell and Mike Cannon have a little bit of separation. Quarterback has his back turned, doesn't see. Gets hit and looks like he comes down. And
Morales already had 1 sack today, and now a quarterback hurry as he found Holbrook. 3 hurries and 4 sacks for the Air Force defense. You know, it's one way that Troy Calhoun is able to use guys that are still a bit undersized, along with defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter, and they come after you a little bit.
Absolutely they do. And talking about Tim Jefferson and dropping back and pass, he left the game with an injury, ended up being his ankle, and Donovan Portery throwing an interception. These are the 2 quarterbacks that started the game, but for different reasons both left the game. And I think if I were the 2, I'd much rather leave the game as Tim Jefferson and Donovan Portery. But the great thing about football is you always get a second chance, and here he is again.
Portery 2 seasons ago threw for 3,000 yards, and that one is complete inside the 20 after an extra effort. Ben Garland had the stop. James Wright with the grab for New Mexico.
Tom, what was working for this offense early on was that they were balanced and they had a running game. Damon Dennis was doing a great job, and that opened things up for Portery early on. It was when Damon Dennis fumbled and he left the game, the running game stopped, and that's when this offense really stalled.
6 carries for 53 yards for Dennis. The majority of those came in the first quarter. When they fell behind big, they basically had to abandon the run. Another drop by Morales, his 2nd sack of the game. And New Mexico turns the ball over on downs.
Right guard number 66, Tuafuale, doing a decent job all night of blocking, but has a little bit of pressure and seepage inside. And this is what Air Force does a good job of, take a look at him right there on your screen. They're just running simple games and movement. One-on-one, does a swim move inside. It's a turn back slide protection to the left, but he cannot hold up. That's the difference. At least if you're not big, you can use your size or your quickness to be able to make plays, and that's exactly what they did on that one for the big turnover.
So the Air Force offense back on the field. 2. Takes it to the 25-yard line, a gain of 4 on first down. One more play forthcoming for Air Force before the end of the quarter. Head coach Troy Calhoun had a couple of different stops in the NFL. First with the Broncos, then with the Houston Texans. And it's almost that NFL experience, I think, that helps him bring so many different looks to this Air Force offense, which under Fisher to Barry for a quarter century was quite simply triple option.
This offense is much more than that. They run triple option, they run zone read, they run inside zone. They do a lot of different things, but they use window dressing, just like you said, Tom, and that's part of Calhoun's specialty with motions and personnel
42
groupings.
Offense. 10-yard penalty, second down.
Another holding penalty on right guard Peter Luss, but it makes it very difficult to be able to defend, Jared 2, number 42, the fullback. A lot of uncharacteristic penalties tonight for this Air Force Falcon team.
Their 4th flag for 30 yards against the Falcons, and they will let the game clock run out to bring it into the third quarter. A 37-6 lead for Air Force over New Mexico. Fourth quarter coming up next on the CBS College Sports Network. Air Force Falcons lead New Mexico here as we start the fourth quarter from University Stadium. Air Force wasted no time taking control of this game in the first quarter and riding a pair of New Mexico turnovers to points in the first half. Lobos have turned it over 4 times. Flag on the play. Take a listen.
Timeout, Air Force. First charge timeout.
So Air Force uses the timeout coming out of the quarter break. Gives us a chance to take a look at our Bud Light Stat 6-pack.
Again, Tommy, turnovers is the key to what's going on and tells the story tonight. New Mexico just simply hasn't protected the football. You take a look at the rush yards. What a great job that Air Force has done, but impressively, New Mexico with 100 rush yards on the day as well has seemed to have found a ground game.
Is this the number that they want in the passing game in the spread offense? 98?
Not quite what you're expecting. You certainly, as a spread offense, you don't want to rush the football for more than throwing the football. And certainly 100 yards through the air in any offense isn't going to get it done. But that's part of having a backup quarterback that probably hasn't had a lot of reps, as certainly as much as this young man, Connor Dietz, has had coming in and trying to run this offense.
At this point last year, Connor Dietz was playing junior varsity football at Air Force. Here he is trying to lead the Falcons to a road win and their 10th straight Mountain West Conference opening victory. Clint McPeak with the stop on that run. And not that it's easy, but with this offense, it certainly gets easier when you have a lead, just to keep rolling the numbers down on the clock.
No question. A lot of offenses have to get into what they call the 4-minute package. 2 minute is the hurry up when you're trying to score with only 2 minutes left. 4 minutes when you're trying to run the clock out. The other team knows you're going to run, and you're going to have to be able to find a way to do it. Air Force does that every down in every game. They know it's a run, and it's just about teams having to defend it and stop it.
Warzika went down at the end of that run by Frankie Baca, the takedown. A little bit of hitch in his giddy up as he heads off. Warzika, one of 2 Falcon rushers with a touchdown tonight. 6 different Falcons have toted the rock, and at least 14 yards for each of them. 227 yards for Air Force tonight.
That's a mark of this team. They spread it out.
Ian Clark is on the field. He's set to return, one of the best in the nation last year. Clark trying to turn the corner. Got a big block at his sideline. Took the helmet off. And there comes a flag. That big block was a block in the back. Trey Hardaway gets flagged down the sideline. It's just nice to see Ian Clark, though, on the field. The Albuquerque native has been banged up with a sore shoulder. We're not sure how much we'll see him on the defensive side of the ball as a former Lobo and safety, but he's one of the best return men in the nation.
Back, 55, the return team, 10-yard penalty, first down.
You got to love the effort of Trey Hardaway, but you got to get your head in front. A ref's going to call that every single time.
Another opportunity for New Mexico's spread offense when we return to University Stadium. Here in the fourth quarter, Troy Calhoun is a name mentioned by big-time programs as an up-and-coming coach, and there may be an opportunity for him down the road. Here are the coaches that we think might be under fire. Al Grove's Virginia team nearly won at Southern Miss. Dan Hawkins' team pitched the second shutout ever in his time in Boulder Street. Cragthorpe lost a shootout today with Kentucky, and Charlie Weiss in Notre Dame. Well, that stat says it all for former Golden Domer sitting next to me.
Yeah, they had a close one today. Took an interception in the last minute to save the win.
Here's the youngster Dennis on the option and a flag on the play.
This is that spark that this young man, the first play he's in, he breaks one for 10 yards. Unfortunately, there's a flag, and it's most likely going to come back, but
Holding.
you cannot
Offense,
play if you can't
number
be trusted.
8. Spot of the foul, 10-yard penalty, first down.
So that'll back him up. Troy Calhoun had a busy offseason. According to my sources, he interviewed not only with Mike Hamilton, the athletic director at Tennessee, but he also interviewed for what was then the vacant Clemson job. And he was considered a dark horse for Tennessee, but once he sat down with the AD, he blew him out of the water face to face. And it could very well have been Troy Calhoun at the Swamp today instead of Lane Kiffin.
I think that says a lot about Troy Calhoun and the reputation he's had, certainly being a professional coach at Denver and a former player, knowing what it takes, and particularly here at the Air Force. But sometimes, Tom, the grass isn't greener. He's certainly a candidate for these other jobs, maybe for some of those jobs where the coach is on the hot seat. You think about, does he want to go to a program like Virginia if Al Groh ends up leaving and competing in-state for recruits with Virginia Tech and maybe having some of those same tough academic standards that you have here? Maybe Colorado job in the Big 12 North. That program's a mess.
Jeff Bzdelik, the Air Force basketball head coach, made the move to Boulder. Troy Calhoun is the only Academy graduate to be the head coach at Air Force. Under Fisher DeBerry, he was a quarterback in the mid-'80s and one of their greatest teams ever in 1985. Then 4 seasons as an NFL assistant, both with the Broncos and the Texans. And he also cut his teeth under Jim Grobe at a couple of different stops. And those Wake Forest connections, from what I understand, were those that helped him get the biggest inroads in Knoxville. You know, you work with a guy or you work with certain people at one stop, they move on. Next thing you know, they have good things to say about you. But he loves coaching at Air Force. And he said, listen, there is no reason why we can't have a winning program here. Are we going to win 10 games every year? No. But there's no reason we can't win on a regular basis. And I think that's different at the Air Force Academy than it would be, say, at Tennessee. Because at the Air Force Academy, when you get those older guys in, you might have a run where you win 7 games, 8 games, 9 games over 3 seasons, then come back below bowl eligibility for a year, and then do it again. But I think if you can win there over the course of 2 years, you can win there over the course of 20 years. And who knows how long he'll feel at home in Colorado Springs.
There's no question, and part of his philosophy we're seeing play out tonight. You can sustain an injury with your starting quarterback go down, but your offense doesn't skip a beat. That's a big reason why this person we're looking at here, Troy Calhoun, is one of the best in the country and has his team up by 31 in the
Air Force in front of New Mexico. Break out your phone. We want your texts as we look at the real-time fan poll brought to you by Text Station. Which first-year coach in the Mountain West Conference will have the most success at his program? For Mike Loxley, text C1 to 88222. Dave Christensen now running away with it. That's C2. And Brady Hoke sitting at 4%. That's C3 to 88222. Troy Calhoun is a great fit at Air Force. He's taken him to back-to-back bowls. Not only did he have success in year one, that continued with another bowl trip last season. And Dr. Hans Mew, the athletic director at the Air Force Academy, is trying to ensure that he stays there as long as he can. He got another raise. He gets an automatic 5-year extension every New Year's Eve. And he's got a great staff underneath him. And those guys enjoyed a pay raise of 24% to try and keep everybody happy and content there in the front range at the Academy. Xavier Stevens with a gain of 9 on first down. They've got a brand new practice facility that is not just in the works, but it is really close to being a reality. Projected opening in 2011. One of the things about being a nonprofit is the Air Force Academy has to raise all $15 million before they can break ground, as opposed to, say, New Mexico and what they were able to accomplish here with their beautiful new facility. If they get the paperwork done and they are no longer a nonprofit, and that could happen as soon as next month, then they could break ground even earlier. But their facilities are already great, and they could be fantastic with the addition of that indoor facility.
And that's what makes Troy Calhoun and his story and what he's done with this program and why he's such a great coach so special, because he's doing it without having comparable facilities like other schools around the country. His players have to have a 3.5 and 1150 on the SAT. It's a 5-year commitment. They have to take 2 aeronautical, mechanical, and civil engineering classes, calculus and 2 physics classes. Not only a second language, but a third language. As first-year people and freshmen on this team, they get hazed, and not necessarily hazed, but there's a lot of pressure that these young players come in which is really about setting the standard that they have to go. So it's not necessarily that Calhoun.
They take 2 or 3 languages. Sometimes you and I speak a couple languages here up here in the booth.
I'm doing it tonight. I'm mush-mouthing about everything I can.
Troy Calhoun said, it's one thing when you're trying to get a freshman football player ready to play football. Well, until they're an upperclassman, sometimes they're just as worried about the starch in the shirt and getting an opportunity to worry about marching the formation as opposed to just worrying about the football. So there's certainly unique challenges, Aaron, at all of the academies, and Troy Calhoun, he's done a tremendous job dealing with that because he's been through it.
Right.
He knows exactly what it's like to have to deal with the upperclassmen and focus on study hall and academics before football.
And I think that's why the university is smartly stepping up and with the pay raises with him and his staff, with the facility, and making efforts to really support this great coach and these players and the core of this team that they have. I mean, typically they like to play juniors and seniors, but when you're looking at 2 standout sophomore quarterbacks, there's some good things to come for this offense and this team in general.
Third quarterback of the night for Air Force is Ben Cochran. Xavier Stevens with the carry past midfield. Sophomore Tim Jefferson started this game. He's now comfy on the sidelines, out of his pad, suffered a sprained ankle in the first half, hit the locker room early. Connor Dietz took over, and in relief, Dietz directed this offense to a fantastic night. 23 yards on the ground for Dietz. Jefferson was 2 of 2 through the air. Dietz was 2 of 4. And now it's Ben Cochran's turn. The junior out of the shotgun, hands it off to Stevens again, and it'll bring up 3rd and 1. It's a walking boot on the sideline for sophomore Tim Jefferson. And the good news is, with the 31-point lead, they've been able to rest him so far tonight. They continue with Mountain West Conference play, playing host to San Diego State next Saturday at the Air Force Academy.
It'll be interesting to see how Brady Hoke and Rocky Long, the former New Mexico head coach, and that 3-3-5 defense that they're putting in, handles this very, very potent rushing attack of the Falcons.
3rd and 1. Nathan Walker picks up the first down before Anthony Hooks brings him up. And so of utmost concern to Troy Calhoun here with 9 minutes to go is not necessarily how this game will finish, but how healthy Tim Jefferson will be for another Mountain West Conference matchup next week.
Well, Tom, when we talked to him, he talked about staying healthy as being critical to their season in the short term this year. Now, certainly Connor Dietz coming in and doing a great job as a backup, as a help, and with the way that they practice and their philosophy, they're going to be okay. But you can't lose a player like Tim Jefferson and be as good or as deep as a football team as you were with him.
Fullback again, Walker. DeAndre Davis, former tight end with the stop. There's a look at Connor Dietz on the sideline. His first significant action since he led Hilliard Davidson to a state championship his senior year in Columbus, Ohio. And he's helping Air Force to a night of 330 yards of total offense. I guess if you're Troy Calhoun, after seeing the way Dietz directed this offense, you certainly would love to start Jefferson next week, but I guess you'd be pretty comfortable with Dietz.
I think he did a lot to further the confidence that this coaching staff has in him. Coming off the bench cold and not expecting to play and having the offense not skip a beat. There was a couple penalties, and those are cadence things that you can understand with a new quarterback and a new rhythm. But other than that, I thought he did a marvelous job protecting the football. That's really the thing that you want to make sure that your quarterback does, is protect the football, particularly if he's coming off the bench.
Drew Coleman with the carry there, and 3rd and 4 coming up. You see the number on Dietz tonight. They don't really jump off the page, but a guy who was able to handle this offense. Cody Getz is in there at wide receiver for Air Force. Out of the eye, again the fullback, and again a first down. Nathan Walker carrying the load here in the 4th quarter. Frankie Solomon with the stop.
Tom, watching this defense of New Mexico, these guys are worn out. And that's what Air Force does to you. They come after you. Guys are walking around, breathing a little bit hard. It's late in the 4th quarter, and for almost 60 minutes, they've had very active, very aggressive players coming at them with tremendous work ethic. I mean, there's no let up on any of these guys. No matter who's in the game, they're going to play to a certain standard.
21 first downs for Air Force, and they turn it over to number 21, and he takes it to the 21-yard line. Darius Jones, a freshman running back out of Chamblee High School in Atlanta, Georgia. Injured Lobo on the play is Kendall Briscoe. Briscoe will catch his breath. We'll be back to Albuquerque right after this.
What can you learn from Tony Stewart?
You gotta sell stuff you love. People have to trust you. You are what you endorse. So any questions?
Why is the
Air Force with the lead. Take a look at our Bud Light Stat 6-pack at University Stadium. Air Force has gone for 273 yards on the ground, 346 yards of total offense. 3rd down conversions continue to haunt New Mexico. Just 2 of 12 tonight, but the 4 turnovers, the big bugaboo.
Yes, it is, and the rushing yards just keep mounting for the Air Force Falcons. But, hey, New Mexico had over 100 rushing yards, which in games like this, you have to look for moral victories, and it's a good place to start. You want to just get better each week, and when you're kind of changing the culture and changing a program around, you want to build off what you've done week to week, and that's something that Troy Calhoun certainly has done a great job with his Air Force program.
2nd and 2 for Air Force, and 3rd-string quarterback Ben Cochran. Ryan Southworth, the new fullback, he carries it just to the first down marker. Frankie Baca with the stop. We've got a high school battle on Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern as the St. Xavier Bombers of Cincinnati travel south to face Austin Collinsworth, the son of NFL great Chris Collinsworth, and the Highlands Bluebirds of Kentucky. It's Max Preps High School Football Friday at 8 on the CBS College Sports Network. Football first. Austin Collinsworth looks a little bit meaner than Chris Collinsworth.
A little bit, yeah. Chris is one of those guys
a little bit of a snarl.
A little bit.
Air Force tries to stretch it out of bounds at the 17-yard line. They love their high school sports in the greater Cincinnati area. That should be a good matchup with a great crowd. Drew Coleman with his second carry of the night for Air Force. So the Air Force third stringers, Aaron, driving on New Mexico. And, well, what are primarily first stringers in the game for the Lobo defense?
Yeah, they've made some substitutions on the defensive side of the ball for New Mexico as well, trying to get some of their younger players some valuable experience. But I've really been impressed when Coach Calhoun told us last week that his twos get more reps than their ones. We're seeing the effectiveness of that tonight.
You know, in years past, we've talked to Troy Calhoun about how they run a practice, and because the option is based so much on repetition, they like to have a very fast-paced practice. That's why you can get so many reps for your twos and threes, because if you're running two different spots, you can get double the amount of reps and get all these guys in there. That's great. It also pays off when you get to the fourth quarter and you have a little bit more oomph in your lungs and some fresh legs.
No question, you're in much better condition and oftentimes than the teams that you're playing. That's something that we did a lot in high school. When the fourth quarter comes around, you're shoving the ball down people's throat. It definitely gives you an advantage, and it's probably a big reason why some of their linemen are 270 pounds. I couldn't imagine practicing in that fast and not having it take its effect on the big guys.
Delay of game.
Offense, number 12, 5 yards, third time.
That'll make it a 3rd and 9 now, or a 3rd and 10.
You've also got a pretty good home field advantage being at altitude. Remember being an offensive lineman in Notre Dame and wondering why there was oxygen canisters on the sidelines, and found out after about the second series.
A trip up, but then a second effort by Darius Jones. And that'll bring up 4th down. Trey Hardaway at the tackle for New Mexico. It just seems to me like this New Mexico defense has been on the field all night long. A 7-minute edge in time of possession for Air Force, but I think the impression is that that's the case is because there was a few times, thanks to turnovers, they had to be out there for extended periods, back to back.
Yeah, there's no question your offense certainly didn't help them out, and unfortunately this is kind of more like the old regime where the defense and the offense are separate, not necessarily working together. I'm not saying that that's the case with New Mexico, but to have a good team, you want to have balance where both the offense and the defense are kind of pulling their weight, and thus far tonight, the offense has been struggling pretty much all season.
3:13 to go from Albuquerque. It's been all Falcons here tonight.
The NCAA
Albuquerque, but it'll be a good flight home for the Air Force Falcons. A 37-6 lead over the Lobos of New Mexico. Yar Holbrook back in the game for New Mexico. Quarterback, and a big play on 1st down. And here come the Lobos with a quick hit. And a touchdown. James Wright takes it 84 yards.
James Wright showing his great speed again. It's just a zone play. He hits it front side. It's one of the things they do. Does a good job switching the football to the outside hand. This is a young man that we talked to. Coach Loxley said he wanted to increase his workload. He's got a greater understanding of the game. He's been working harder in practice, and we're seeing why. Paying off tonight. Huge touchdown run late for the Lobos.
Aho punches it through. 37-13 with 3 minutes to go. James Wright stands 6 feet even, 239 pounds. And if he looks familiar, it also seems like he's cut from the same cloth as a guy like Rodney Ferguson. A big fella who can float. He showed us that down the sideline.
This is just a great job of seal block and missed tackle there by the Air Force defense, but it just becomes a foot race. James Wright doing a good job. He's got his head cocked back, which means he's in 5th gear, and just does a good job of outrunning the Falcon defense. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Great job up front by that offensive line. Hopefully take those guys out for a bag of popcorn and a soda pop.
126 yards and a pair of touchdowns for James Wright tonight, the sophomore out of Dallas, Texas. Three minutes to go. 24-point difference. Will they kick it away? Looks like Air Force has its hands team in and a little bit late getting on the field with their hands guys, and so they will use a timeout.
Timeout. Air Force, last charge timeout. This is a 30-second timeout.
On special teams, so they wanted to make sure everybody was over there. So 3 minutes to go. Air Force up 37-13 here in Albuquerque. Tom Hart alongside Aaron Taylor. If you're Troy Calhoun, you've got a lot to like about this game, and perhaps most importantly about finding your first Mountain West win before anybody else has one.
There's no question. I mean, coming into this game, you tell you're going to lose your starting quarterback on the road in the first conference game. You're going to think that it's not a very good result, but they really didn't skip a beat. So all that hard work that they put in practice, particularly with the second string, is really paying off, and it's just a testament to how well coached these guys are and how prepared they are to go out on the field.
They've been banging the drum on the ground all night, as you would expect from this Air Force offense. Asher Clark, 20 carries, 86 yards. The fullback, Jared Two, touched it 17 times. And then they're able to get all sorts of other guys involved with the offense, thanks to the fact that has been a blowout. They kick it away, but it's a short one. Only one guy back for Air Force, and they got to hustle after this loose ball. And taking a knee is Darius Jones. Air Force had the hands team in, and New Mexico tried to surprise them.
Tom, we talk a lot about how well Troy Calhoun has got his team prepared, but Mike Locksley, I mean, late in this game, they were able to dig deep and not quit and not give up and have a great effort to be able to score on the ground. Believe it or not, that's something that you can build on, and that's something that he will absolutely point out in the film in the fourth quarter when the game is obviously decided. It's about execution. When you go back and put the film on, guys would have put their feet in the right places, their heads in the right landmarks, and done their job. The result was a touchdown.
Well, I suppose you could also say that if James Wright continues to make these big plays on the ground, his workload will increase.
No question. He was a young player that they're very excited about. He just really didn't, it didn't click. Sometimes with young players it doesn't click. You know, you have a lot of success in high school, you use your physical ability, you're more talented and gifted than the guys around you, and it takes having to get here and having the light bulb go off where you understand the amount of preparation it takes to be able to go out there and perform week in and week out.
2nd and 6. Nathan Walker is the fullback. Here he goes again, and Walker to the 15-yard line. Carmen Messina with another stop. The sophomore from Addison, Illinois, had 14 tackles against Tulsa. He's nearing double-digit tackles here tonight. A tough test for the Lobos so far this season. You open with a Big 12 opponent in Texas A&M. Then you take on a Tulsa team which can put points on the board with anybody. You're in the game at the half, and the Golden Hurricane blow you away in the third quarter. And then you have to come in and face a triple option, and an efficient triple option for Air Force, and that's Walker for the first down. You don't get a break, you don't get a breather, do you?
No, you don't, and that's one of the things that Coach Locksley's going to have to do is to make sure that these guys are mentally okay. I mean, they're going to be physically tired. It's been a long football game on the defensive side of the ball, but you don't want to lose the confidence of your team. You don't want to get a case of the sorries or the here we goes again. And that's going to be a great challenge for Mike Locksley moving forward for this football team. But there's some things to build around. Their defense, there's potential here. They've shown some things tonight where they may have what it takes to be able to get them through the year and just in time for the offense to finally catch up. Air Force running the clock out now, and the best play in football, victory formation. I always used to hate when we would do that, though, because it would take 2 or 3 yards off the rushing, which you had done for the day.
You know, your counterparts in South Bend aren't running that too often these days.
No, they're not, but we did today. We got a lucky big play late, but I'll tell you what.
That was the first Notre Dame win at home against Michigan State since you were in pads, wasn't it?
It's unbelievable. I was on the field the last time that we won. For whatever reason, they've had their number. No flag stuck in the field today.
Take a look at the Mountain West Conference scoreboard. Number 18, Utah missed an opportunity on the road against Oregon with a big comeback, but fell short. Florida State hung 54 on BYU today. And coming up later tonight on the CBS College Sports Network, Hawaii at UNLV. You can also find that game on the mountain. Air Force came down from the mountain and took it to New Mexico tonight. The Lobos fall to 0-3. Air Force is now 2-1. They could very well be 3-0, but for a late blown lead against Minnesota last week in Big Ten territory.
Yeah, that was one of the things that they were talking about, was what a missed opportunity, but 2-1, some great things to build off of.
Let's take a look at tonight's DirecTV Player of the Game. Sophomore quarterback Connor Dietz came off the bench to lead Air Force to the victory.
Didn't necessarily have great numbers, but what he did do is he came in and managed the game and did exactly what he needed to do, which is keep the offense moving and protect the football. Very difficult to do for somebody to come off the bench. Not necessarily the easiest thing. We saw two quarterbacks have to do it, but Connor Dietz obviously was prepared and did a great job in this game.
Let's go down to the northeast corner of the end zone for the Air Force alma mater. It was a good road trip for the Flight of Sound as well. The Air Force Band came down from Colorado Springs, and the Falcon faithful will leave here tonight with a big smile. A 37-13 victory for head coach Troy Calhoun.